Hey everybody, it is awesome to see you again. I'm Crystal Stein from crystalstein.me, and I'm hanging out with my buddy Dan King from Fist Bump Media. It's been a while since we've done one of these, and we were pretty pumped. We were brainstorming ideas and came up with some mega content about micro content. So we have a ton to share with you, but a little bit of time. We're going to play on this micro mega thing the whole time. So get ready for that. But we're just going to jump right into it. So I'm going to kick it over to Dan. And actually, before I do, I almost forgot. There's this awesome new feature. So if you're watching live, if you hear something you really, really like, will you just click the applause button, and it'll just let us know that you're into it and you're listening and there's actually people out there? Because right now I feel like I'm just talking to Dan. So we know you're out there, and we want to know what you liked, and that's a way to let us know. So let's kick it off. Dan, how you doing?
I am doing great. I'm super pumped about this too and everything here, Crystal. This is it's kind of a cool topic, because I think this this idea of micro content is a cool thing to really, I think, help people kind of continue to get the reach of their story out there even further. You know, I mean, I know a lot of people who are on this are bloggers. There may be some business people, maybe even doing some business blogging stuff and everything as well too. You know, and a lot of times, we read a blog post, right, and and that's it. You know, you never hear from that blog post ever again. It maybe it's a great story, something that really needs to reach people and stuff too. But you know, using micro content can be a cool way. You know, I'm not going to spill all the beans just yet. We're going to talk a little bit more detail about this in a second. Be a cool way to help kind of some of that content continue to live on, and extend the reach and better fit different social media platforms and things like that. I know. It kind of mentioned this in the description of the event stuff too. You know, I hear people talking about how blogging is dead. I really don't think blogging itself is dead. I think a lot of the stuff, no matter what your content strategy is, should be connected and drive back to your website, whatever your website is, whether it's a blog, a business website, or anything like that. It's really important, but these smaller pieces of content, this micro content, can really help extend your reach and continue to drive stuff back for a long time to come. So this is a big topic, I think, a big micro topic. Ooh, see what I did there?
I like it. So when you talk about micro content, Dan, can you give us a couple examples of exactly what that is? So as we're going through this and we're saying micro content, we're talking about different content strategies. What is it exactly that you are talking about in this case?
Yeah, so micro content is essentially really just kind of by definition. Micro means small, right? I know a lot of people who've kind of been connected and run some of these webinars for a little while too know some of the work that I've done, like with the high calling. And I think one thing I found is particularly there is really fascinating is that we could share a piece of content to link to an article on the website, and what happens is sometimes I'll see like an article, the whatever I post on Facebook, for example, will get more likes than actually people click through to the website and stuff. And but what that tells me is that people are stopping and kind of engaging with that piece of content where it is, where it lives. But when I look at the things that we do and the things that resonate, sometimes it's those small pieces of content. And I think when I think about a micro content strategy, that's it. It's taking the big piece that you have and thinking about the small pieces that are in there that can be leveraged across different platforms. I want to screen share real quick because I want to point out just even a couple of examples that I have, because I mentioned the kind of big, right? This is one post. And this is just a quote from our article that we posted, the 5 biggest career mistakes Christians can make. And you see this one, it's got, I'm posting through Buffer because it's giving you some great data and some information about this one. Got 263 likes on it, but you can see that it got 1,400 clicks on the article as well, right? But then if I look at this other one that we posted, and this is an interesting piece of content, but it's just kind of a quote, and there's an image here. I'll show you the image in a second with a link back to the article. You see on this one it got 267 likes, but only 11 clicks back to the website, but 148 shares. So you're talking about content that's really kind of gone out and spread and taken a life of its own. but the driving the traffic back to the website is not a big deal. Here's the graphic that went along with that too. So just a basic graphic, kind of infographic style, just a list of if you do this, then this, but based on some of the content that's actually within the article. And that's one of the things I think when I think about a micro content strategy is that it doesn't matter where the content lives. This smaller kind of a summary piece, in kind of infographic form, can take a life of its own, but continuing to spread that same message. So it's just kind of making smaller pieces, essentially, of the bigger.
Yeah, that is so you gotta give us a quick update, Dan, on the background noise we're hearing there in your video. Is that your little one?
Yeah, the background is that's a little one. For anybody who knows me, we're actually in the process of adopting a baby, and she's 7 months old, and so she's out there with the nanny right now, apparently hungry or something like that. So
she's your own extra micro content in your family then. We're gonna do this all day. All right. So I wanted to just quickly, you showed everybody the tools that you're using in Buffer, and the website for that is bufferapp.com. It's an awesome site to be able to schedule social media, and it gives you really great analytics. And there's a great Chrome extension that you can add if you use Google Chrome as your browser. It makes it super easy to share pretty much from any website that you want to. So really loved that one. Glad you showed us that. And I love the idea of creating this content. So, I think that we're becoming a very visual audience, and everybody is very into very short videos and beautiful Instagram images, and you want people to really be able to share what you are creating. And if they want something short and sweet and to the point, you want to really give them that nugget out of your content and hopefully drive them with some extra interest over to your blog. Because social media is great and it's amazing to have communities there, but you can better control your audience and what they receive if they're on your site and if they're in your email list and you have them and you have their contact information. So anything you can do to drive traffic back to your site, back to your email list, always good stuff. So plus people don't share full blog content on Pinterest, they share a beautiful image. So this is a great way to continue to get your reach out further and hopefully drive traffic back to your original post and then get them hooked in there because you're just awesome. Love it.
That is exactly it. You nailed it,
In a nutshell. Okay, we're done. No. All right, so we talked a little bit about what micro-content is, and you touched on some content strategy. So when we're talking about creating really good micro-content within a blog post, because it happens in a blog post and outside of your blog post, what are some tips or tools or tricks that you have for us about building good micro-content within our blog posts that support this overall content strategy?
Yeah, and that's huge. All right, so a couple things. I'm gonna screen share real quick too because I want to point out a couple of examples. And really, one of the big things here is thinking about where the content is going to go and where it's going to live, right? And this is an example too. This is actually, I'm going to pick on them. This is actually from my church, the youth group. Tweeting an image, right? And you can see how the text for the image is kind of cut off, right? It's one of the things we want to try to avoid is if you're going to have like text on an image and stuff, you need to be thinking about that platform itself and where it goes. So here's another example. This is one of my clients, right? We share the link to a business blog post, and when Facebook pulls in that link, it was and I'll show you the actual image here in a second. It was actually a square image, but it's going to kind of crop that out, right? So if you're going to have text on it, you need to be thinking about where are those crop lines going to be, and how's that going to display? Because if you want that text on there, you want it to show appropriately in the different platforms. So this is going to be a big thing when we think about internal within the post, right? And here's the screen of that actual fuller image, right? We made a full square image that actually lives on the blog itself. And that's something that can kind of be shared out to other platforms and stuff too. I want to show you another website too, because when we talk about in the post, there's a few things that I think of, right? One is that kind of how does the image appear when it goes across to different platforms and stuff, and in this case, with this one, we know really the majority of the audience here is on Facebook and on Twitter. So we really kind of made the images for these posts to really kind of fit to Facebook and to Twitter. The Twitter is going to be kind of a 2-by-1 kind of dynamic, and this is kind of cropped, so it's going to fit kind of in that link space within Facebook as well. Another thing I want to kind of point out too, when I think about in the post kind of content, not just the graphics you use, but think about click-to-tweet stuff. With click-to-tweet, you're going to be kind of pointing out and giving people other pieces of micro content within the blog post. So think about short, powerful statements that you think would make good tweets, right? To be able to share and add that as a click-to-tweet. I use I think it's a click-to-tweet by TodayMate. It's a great WordPress plugin to push that stuff out, and it kind of gives you this cool little call-out box that when people click on that, it's going to kind of create that tweet, throw the mention of who you are is the source of that information. So when you think about structuring your blog post, for example, you need to be thinking about every element that's on there, the pieces that you want other people to be able to share, and how you can kind of enable them to share your micro content, whether it's graphic content, text content, or whatever. So that's kind of what we think about inside the post there.
That's awesome information, Dan. And actually a couple things that I didn't know. Love that tip for the WordPress plugin, because you can just go to clicktotweet.com and you can get the link and everything, but there's still a lot then you have to do. It does do some tracking for you, but I love the idea of a plugin that just makes life a lot easier if you're on WordPress. And if you're not, Dan can totally hook you up with that. And the idea of how we get our content from our blog to show up the way we want it to on social media, I think, is really important and something to consider, because suddenly that takes it from on your blog post to off your blog post, where, at least for me, the majority of my audience lives in social media. They don't necessarily come to my blog every day, but they share a lot of my content off my blog. And so if some of what Dan was showing you, I'm totally going to do just a blatant shout out for my own thing right now, if that's all right. If you have questions or are a super beginner about making these graphics and images for your blog and for social media, I'm running a free course in April, so it starts a week from today, actually, which is awesome. A week from yesterday. It's April 1st, whatever day that is of the week it is. And if you want to head over to my blog and go to crystalstein.me/blog, in the sidebar, you can actually click on the graphic that's there, sign up for it. It's free, 30 days, 1 day, 1 email a day to take you from finding photos online to creating printables and everything in between, plus all these tools that I use for free every day. So it'll take you sort of to the next level, and then you'll have great micro content on your blog. And then, Dan, what do we do when we need to create some micro content off of our blog?
Yeah, and that's a great question. It's not even just need to create content off of the blog. One of the things that I do a lot of times when I think about even graphics to go on the blog is think about creating different versions of those graphics because of the different ways that they'd be delivered in different places. So if you remember the example, and I'll screen share again real quick and just kind of go back to it. If you remember the example of the tweet image that gets cropped off like that, you don't want graphics that are going to be shared over onto Twitter. They're going to get cropped out. You want to make a graphic that's specific for Twitter, kind of takes in consideration those dimensions and stuff. So one of the things that I'm always thinking about when I'm creating content that can be shared across platforms is I might make multiple graphics. Even for like this webinar, one of the things I did is I created multiple graphics. I created one that was square that I use like primarily like on Facebook, because the square images work great for like Facebook and Instagram and things like that. I make one that's kind of landscape rectangular that works really well for like a Twitter. And then I make one that's kind of poster, kind of, vertical, kind of rectangular like that works great for like Google Plus and Pinterest. Pinterest likes the taller images and stuff like that too. That tend to work much better there. So I've actually, I create multiple versions of really the same graphic with some of the different dimensions that might go in different places. So I may have one, maybe it's a square image or something like that too on the actual blog post, but I might have the taller one that I throw over on Twitter, really just kind of pointing back to the same place, to that same blog post. So all of those different versions of images don't necessarily have to appear on the blog post, but you're creating that content to go specifically elsewhere. A lot of times too, when you're thinking off the blog post, think about kind of reframing the content in different ways. So infographics, for example, showed you the one which is really just the full post was kind of a list highlighting a few different ideas that if you do these things, then this will happen, right? So in the full blog post, I kind of blow out and talk a little bit more about each of those things, but I can kind of summarize and give the actual list and create like an infographic kind of image that can be shared, and that's something it's a standalone piece of content. That I can essentially kind of drop in the description, for the full details of all this. Go back to read this whole blog post. But that's a smaller piece of content that can live in other places. And other pieces like videos. I know, Crystal, we were just even talking ahead of time too. Love the preacher guy that announced this video, and this is kind of another shout out to another resource. And if you're watching live, it's the link will be over in the showcase. But to Fiverr, Fiverr. Fiverr is a great website for getting really kind of cheap work done and stuff. That video, I just kind of had the description of what this event was about. Sent it to the preacher man on Fiverr. And for $5, he kind of pulls that together and does that little video stuff, and I use that as kind of the trailer that I can kind of share even ahead of time leading up to the post. You can even do that even with old blog posts. You can have things done in all kinds of different styles. Preacher man kind of sharing about it, talking about the idea. You can have new style things, all kinds of animations and puppets, talking about your stuff or whatever. So you can even use videos and use resources like Fiverr, which might only have cost you $5 to get cool piece of content done to repurpose your materials and stuff, and those videos can be shared on Facebook and stuff like that. Again, have their own life, completely separate from the core blog post. But anytime you do that, if you're creating content that's going to live somewhere else, you're always going to want to make sure that in the description stuff for it to drop the link back to the original blog post, because it can be a resource that hey, if you want to know more about this, got to come here, and this is where your website or your blog ends up becoming the kind of go-to point for more information about whatever that micro piece is actually communicating. So a lot of cool tools and resources and stuff, but definitely think about creating specific content that is intended to live in different areas. So it's going to look differently, it's going to be created differently, different shapes and all that stuff to kind of go all around.
I love the video idea. It's really fun, I think, to be able to do videos. It's super easy to do them yourself too. If you can just record really easy ones on your phone or on your computer, and then just use the tools that are built into your computer if you want to do one yourself to invite people to join you. There's something really special about that connection. So you read somebody's words, but then you get to hear their voice and see the inflection and really feel like you're getting that next level of engagement with them. I think it's a really fun, easy way to sort of take your content to the next level and maybe reach a new audience. So video is definitely the way to go. I can't pretend I would be as awesome as the preacher guy if I did one of those, but super fun nonetheless. So I wanted to say it sounds very intimidating, I think, to feel like you spend all this time creating the content for your blog post, and then you have to create 4 or 5 different versions of this graphic that you want to share. But there are really simple tools to do it. Canva.com is the one that I use all the time. They make it super easy because what you can do is create one of your images. They have all of the dimensions already set up for you. So whether it's a Facebook post, an Instagram post, a Pinterest, they have infographics on there that are set up under what they call their blog post images. All of it is on one site. And so once you create one graphic that you really like how it looks, it saves it for you, and then you can just download that as a JPEG, pop it into the different size templates that they have, and add a little extra text or a border or a background, and it makes it really, really easy. So there are definitely easy free tools that you can use to do all of this to make it a little less scary. So definitely more micro on time than, sort of the mega time commitment it sounds like at first. But it is so, so worth it, because if you think about what you share on Pinterest, right, you very rarely will share something that's this inky dinky little square, right? If you see like the big, beautiful infographic that has the gorgeous background and the fun fonts, those are the things that catch our eye. And so it can be kind of hard to think about where to start with creating those. But if you look at the things you've pinned and that you've shared that have caught your eye, it's okay to replicate those looks if those are things that you like. And so that would be my tip on where to start, is to use a tool like Canva that makes it easy. And then take a look at the styles of the things that you're already sharing, and then figure out how you can make those work for you for your content. Because you don't want to just constantly put the title of your blog post out on these images. You want to have that quote that stands by itself, the thing that's really shareable, even if it's a scripture reference or a quote from someone else, but you can add your website as a watermark so people know to go back, they know who made it. I think all of that is really, really fun. So I don't know. Do you have anything to wrap us up there, Dan? We've talked about a lot in a little.
Yeah. Yeah, and really just got to follow up on that too, because I even see looking at the questions happening, the conversation happening out on the event page and stuff. And Kate, you really kind of hit what Kate was, I think, asking about, wondering about the best, easiest way to create the same graphic in different sizes, and really just kind of build on what you said too. Is a great tool like Canva. I use PicMonkey sometimes as well too, kind of depending on the feel or how I want to kind of build it and stuff. But really, from a technical perspective, I start with an image that's much bigger than what I want, and I know within that I kind of crop it out. If I got my title, stuff like that too, or my quote stuff, kind of be in a certain place, but I can just kind of recrop it to different sizes from there and stuff. So just make sure I'm starting with an image that's bigger. With the focal point too is always going to be kind of in where I need it to be, depending on the crop and stuff. And I just totally lost what I was just going to say. But yeah, I think one of the big things, and this is it. One of the big things I think with when we're talking about micro content stuff, sharing, if you're a Christian blogger sharing a scripture verse or something like that on it too, right? Don't always just go for just the title of a post or something like that too on a cool graphic. Pull a piece of content from within there, right? Think about the tweetable thing or the cool quote takeaway that you want. Put that on the graphic. Because I think what I see quite often too is here's the thing, right? The big value in the social media world comes from the likes and the shares and stuff like that, right? Very rarely are you going to see people share a cool graphic with the title of a blog post. They're going to share a cool graphic with the cool quote or the cool scripture verse that it's based off of, or anything like that, right? So those are the kinds of graphics that you want to try to make, because you need to be thinking about what's going to be shareable, what's going to cause somebody to just click like this and by itself, even if they don't come to the blog post, because that's the capital there in the social media world is those likes and those shares, which is going to get your stuff in front of more people, which will result in more clicks back to your fuller content on your website or your blog. So that's a big thing in there. I think that just keep thinking about repurposing the content. Different shapes, sizes, really built for the different platforms, and think about what it is that gets shared. It's not the titles; it's the content itself. Even the small pieces. I think. What was the other thing I was just going to say? Totally lost it again.
Well, I want to just make a quick note to say that whenever you're sharing this micro content, it's a great way to really gauge your audience and what their interests are. And so when you start to see what your audience is sharing and liking based on the quotes, maybe they prefer scriptures, and maybe they prefer, quotes by famous people, or maybe they really just want your words. And you can start to see what they like and what they respond to, and you can adjust your content strategy for your blog post and your other content accordingly to make sure you're really finding your voice, finding your niche, finding, what your community really wants, and it can really help you narrow down your focus, because you can write about anything, but what your community is craving from you, you can really start to use this micro content in a big way to really take your blog further and make sure that you're delivering on what they're really wanting to hear from you and what they see you as an expert in. So I think that that's a really fun way to use this content, sort of wrap it back around to your blog content.
Yeah, and then the other thing I was just thinking too is don't even think about just the new content that you're creating, because this is something you can do to even kind of go back and give new life to old content, right? You can give new life to old content by having it read and making a video out of it, creating an infographic or something like that, if it kind of lends to that kind of, if you have some kind of list or something like that, right? Whatever it is, so even think about old content that you have somewhere on your website or blog or something like that too, that you'd love to try to drive some new traffic to. Create those micro content pieces and get them out there and share them. Maybe there's a cool quote that seemed to resonate. Sometimes a lot of times in the comments on blogs, right, people will say, "Oh, this line that really stuck with me." Well, take that line and turn it into a piece of micro content, an image, and get it out there and share it. Because if you can share it in a different, cool, creative way that you hadn't before, then it's likely to reach more people, and it could bring a lot of new life and traffic back to even the old stuff. So definitely keep thinking along those lines. Good stuff. So wrap up, right?
Yeah, I think we're about at time. We did a great job.
Yeah.
I mean, we think we're kind of awesome, but that's fun.
Just micro awesome. That's all. Yeah. So one last thought too, and this is just a new thing that I want to try to do with Fist Bump Media, because we've experienced some cool success with our growth over the last few years, and growing as a small business, and it's always been important to me. If you've read any of my writing, especially about like poverty and stuff like that too, then you know that helping other entrepreneurs and stuff like that too is a big deal for me. So one new thing that we want to try to do is we want to be a small business that helps other entrepreneurs and small businesses and stuff. So what we're going to do is I'm going to figure out a way to see if I can do this with other pieces and stuff. But at least right now I'm going to start with the hosting. That anybody who signs up for the basic hosting plan that we have, our managed hosting, I'm going to take your first month worth of service, and I'm going to donate it to a microloan. So we're gonna use that money the first month of any new hosting clients and stuff to fund microloans really around the world to help entrepreneurs and stuff around the world get established and get small business of their own started somewhere. So I'll have a page on the Fist Bump Media website too that even kind of details more of what this looks like. Watch for that. We'll continue to talk about it and stuff as well too. But I even want to try to even on that page feature, hey, here's some of the entrepreneurs around the world too that we've been able to support and fund, so that to help them kind of build their dreams and pull themselves out of poverty, and accomplish everything that they want to accomplish. So it's kind of one way we're thinking of definitely want to give back, and share some of the success that we've experienced too. And give you an opportunity to kind of be a sort of a partner in that, to know that what you're doing here with us is continuing to do good around the world. So.
I love that, Dan. You have always been known for your generosity, and you're just taking it to a new level and inviting us to come along with you, and there is nothing cooler than that. So that gets a fist bump for sure. There we go. And you can, if you have any questions about any of what we talked about, you can connect with Fist Bump Media on Facebook or Twitter. And if you have any questions for me about the graphics course that I'm going to be running, you can check in with me on Twitter. I'm at Crystal Stein. Pretty easy. That's pretty much where you find me everywhere. So I guess until next time, Dan.
Awesome. Fist bump. Thanks, everybody.